And I think with my police background, taking chances and being in the fire and, whatever word I'm looking for, gave me that courage which a lot of people sometimes just never get and do and take action. Right. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do it. I'm going to leverage everything we got in the house and let's do it.
Welcome to Real Talk with Gary. If you are listening to this show, that means you are either searching or ready to make a financial change in your life. This show is not only about real estate investing, but also the importance of mindset and the roadmap to a better, healthier life. Learn the daily routines of successful entrepreneurs and the latest market strategies and trends to stay ahead of the curve. Ready for some down-to-earth, north-of-the-border Canadian talk? Here's your host, Gary Hibbert.
All right, welcome back. And today I've got Adrian Pannozzo. He was a police officer for 21 years, and he retired early as a result of real estate investing. He's now a full-time real estate investor. He's also an entrepreneur. He's the owner of multiple companies. And in less than a decade, he has acquired a portfolio that consists of 80 plus investment properties with over 420 units. A huge, huge accomplishment. He's also the founder of Executive Properties Capital, Inc., which is an investment company that raises capital through joint venture partnerships. He's also the owner of Investors Edge Construction Management, and he's also manages a high-scale full-service property management company in the Hamilton area. And so, listen, wealth of knowledge. And so on today's show, we dive into is now the right time to be leaving your full-time job? And if it is, how do you do it? We also talk about how he was able to scale to the level that he has been able to accomplish in such a short period of time. And then also, how does he do his joint venture partnerships and the splits, which I think is always interesting to see how other people are doing them, and how he's been shifting with the recent interest rate hikes that have happening. Everybody's been impacted by it. And so we dive into a lot more. Great conversation. I also had Quentin Cordick in the studio as well too. And so what is happening in the market? If you don't know, that means you've been under a rock. Listen, interest rates continue to keep going up. Bank of Canada right now is at 5%. And so what do you do? What do you do in this particular market? And I think this is probably the best solution that I can give you. At least what you should do is don't sit there and complain. It's easy to do that. It's easy to blame and point the finger at the government. Listen, if anybody trusted the government, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, right? They lie. They've done it before. It's not the first time they've done it. And so what you've got to do now is then take a look at your portfolio. Whether it's large or it's small, and then take some action. Maybe you got to shop it around. Maybe you've got to lock it in now. Maybe you've got to bring in a joint venture partner. Maybe you need to do a cash injection. Maybe you need to re-amortize it. Whatever it is, don't just sit there and complain. Just make some adjustments, make some changes, because this could be like this for the next couple of years. Who knows? I can tell you this. Here's the one thing I do know for sure is that nobody knows. Okay? I've been doing this long enough that anytime I listen to an expert or take a look at a chart, these charts sometimes are just, you're looking at historical data. Yeah, they can help you in some regards, but you just never know. You don't know. And so you got to do what makes you comfortable and what's going to allow you to sleep at night. So look after your family and your portfolio and do what works for you, because again, this is a long-term play. This is not short-term. And so sometimes with these long-term plays, you got to use long-term strategies. All right. So I hope that little tip helps. And don't forget, we're also on YouTube. Don't have a ton of followers over there, but it's okay. It's slowly growing. I'm still having fun with this, man. I really enjoy it. But if you haven't been over there, please subscribe. It's just Gary Hibbert, Real Talk with Gary. So check that out if you want to sit down and watch the shows. And also our mentorship program, the one that Darlene and I do. That is starting back up again in September. We've got 2 spots remaining. We only like to take on 4 different individuals or couple at a time. And then don't forget, if you're enjoying the podcast, please leave a short review. Just hit pause real quick, head over there, just say, hey, I'm liking the show. Or even if there's a guest that you'd like me to bring on. And if you leave a little review, I'll also read your review as well too. All right. And so with that, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show with Adrian. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. All right. Talk to you guys next week. Take care. Today's show brought to you by Rent Panda. Rent Panda helps landlords go from listing to lease without wasted time or headaches along the way. Rent Panda provides the do-it-yourself landlord, which is an online platform where you can list your property for free, post your ad on multiple platforms, see tenant profiles, message tenants, schedule showings, get credit checks, build leases quickly and easily. Rent Panda also caters to the more passive landlord who needs to find a tenant, doing all of the leasing work, so all you have to do is sit back and get the best tenants presented to you. All right, Adrian, we're live. Welcome, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, good to see you in person. We've done I was on your podcast not too long ago.
Yep. Yeah. I was saying just before we went live here, it's funny, you have these conversations, you see each other on social media quite a bit, you're doing this, we're doing this, and then you always wonder, I wonder if that guy's actually tall or shorter than me, or, but it's great to meet you in the flesh.
Yeah, for sure. Just get a little closer to that mic if you don't mind.
Yep.
Awesome. Quentin, how you doing, brother?
Excellent. Always great to be here, Gary.
Good. Listen, I'm excited to have this chat with you, man. You're doing some big things out in, where are you doing a lot of your investing? Are you out in Hamilton, St. Catharines?
Hamilton, St. Catharines, Welland. We just picked up something in Welland. Just picked up something in St. Catharines. But the bulk of our, let's call it 98% of our portfolio, our work, our businesses is all in Hamilton.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. You're a busy man. Anytime I call somebody and they've got like an admin, I'm like, okay, this guy's busy. I gotta go through your admin to get to Adrian, right?
It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Or else you'll spend the whole day, trying to get to what you got to get to, screening out the calls and the emails and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess it's a good sign.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good sign.
It's always difficult though when you're thinking about getting an admin and you're like, can I afford it? And at least for me it was. I don't know if you had that same hurdle.
Yeah.
I think most people do.
Yeah, and I think early on in my career in this game, one real hard lesson pill I had to swallow was the pill of leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I grew up with nothing. I got my first pair of skates out of the garbage.
Okay.
I grew up with nothing. My parents did for me what they could, which was average, but we weren't swimming in it. So I grew up pretty frugal. And even in my early days, being a police officer, I was pretty frugal. I love police. I was police, but most cops are cheap.
Okay.
Like,
really?
Like deep down cheap.
But they make good income, don't they?
Good.
They're over 100.
Yeah. They're definitely, I'd say 120 to 150.
Okay.
But yeah, they really watch their pennies. They don't trust a lot of people, just dealing with,
yeah, because I guess you're dealing with
the scum of society pretty much every day.
Yeah.
The only time you deal with somebody great like us is if you're a victim of a crime and, you wake up in the morning, your car's not in your driveway, it got stolen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to meet somebody decent now. But more often than not, you're going to the lowest of the low.
Do you start like re-looking at your friends? You're like, man, I wonder if this guy's out to get me.
Yeah. And your friends are looking at you differently because, now you're the police.
Right.
And, can I smoke this joint in front of you? Are you going to arrest me because you're the police or this or that? But you look at things differently and people look at you differently. And it's sad, but it's true. That's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, I grew up pretty frugal. So back to leverage. It was a tough pill for me to swallow, even with the admin side of things and leveraging that. And I finally just bit the bullet. And it's like, you know what? If I leverage this, even if it's going to cost me X amount, I really need to focus and triple that amount by leveraging that. So
Right.
if it's going to cost me 50 grand a year, hypothetical, for an admin, I need to reproduce that to 100 grand or 150 grand by leveraging that time that I'm not dealing with the administrative side of things and answering those calls or those emails. I can focus on the next deal.
Yeah, because then it allows you to go back and work in your genius.
Right.
The things that you're good at, as opposed to now when you're growing your portfolio and you're working with your joint venture partners. Now you're starting to do all the administrative work, and you're like, I don't have time for this, but it has to get done, right? But let's rewind a little bit. Let's talk about your story. Why did you become a cop, and then what got you into real estate investing? Because there's obviously something triggered you to get into this world.
Yeah, for sure. I was the guy. I remember way back when we were in senior kindergarten, and which was a really long time ago as we get older. But
it's like ages ago.
Yeah, I was the little guy sitting in, when the police officer came into your school to give you a lecture. This is how you cross the road. You look both ways and jazz.
Yep.
Like that. I was the guy sitting in the corner, on the carpet with your class, and there's the police officer standing in front of you, giving you this little lecture on how to cross the road.
Yep.
And I remember looking up at this guy, and I still remember his name. His name was Officer Norm. I remember looking at this guy in his shiny boots and his police belt and the gun and his uniform, and he was crisp.
It was a gun that got you.
It was a gun, yeah. And I remember looking up going, like, that's my Superman. This guy, like, this is my Superman, and I want to be that guy. And it never left me. My whole, childhood coming up, it never left me. And as far back as I can remember, that's all I wanted to ever do.
Right.
I want to be that guy.
Okay.
And so I chased that dream, and I got hired on the police department, young age of 23 years old. Right out of college. I went to college, Seneca College, and then graduated from there. Got the odd, security job, being a security guard, trying to pad my resume. And then, I got a lucky break when I was 23 years old. Got hired with Peel Regional Police, Mississauga, Brampton.
Yep.
Jurisdiction, and started working at 23 years old, gun on my hip, cruiser and my keys in my hand. Here you go, son.
Yeah.
Go fight crime.
What's the craziest story? You ever have to pull that gun out?
Tons of times.
What?
Yeah, tons of times.
Really?
I had the luxury of, or I had the pleasure of working in many different areas. I completed 21 years of service.
Yeah.
And in that 21 years, I think I only did maybe 4 or 5 years in uniform on the road. And then the rest of the 16 years, I spent time in the drug squad, bank robbery division, detective squad, auto theft squad, homicide squad. Like I had a lot of opportunity to work in plain clothes, dealing with some serious bad people.
Right. So when you say civilian clothes, are you talking about like undercover?
Undercover and or just street clothes, where we would be investigating certain crimes and just dressed like we are today, just plain clothes, and obviously some undercover stuff in undercover drugs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was...
Is that the bulk of it though? Is a lot of it drugs? Is it a lot of like gangs?
Yeah, it always seems one way or another, there's some kind of drug component involved, even with break and enters, but he's doing break and enters so he can pawn off the shit he's stealing and buy his crack.
Right.
So somehow, somewhere, there's always some kind of drug component.
Right. Whether it's at the lower scale, where they're just like, look, man, I just need to get that drug so I can get my fix, or on that higher level where they're using it to fund their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right?
Or obviously then the really high level where I had an opportunity to investigate some really high level drug traffickers.
Yeah.
Right. Importing, exporting cocaine and whatnot. So really exciting career. And I just got to a point, after 21 years, as much as I always wanted to be a police officer, my passion changed.
Was there a day? Actually, before we get into that, just with everything that's happening right now in the U.S. with the fentanyl and all that, what are your thoughts on that, and how it's coming across the border? It is coming across the border.
I've lost touch with it.
Okay, so you're too heavy in real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll go back to real estate.
It does help with screening tenants, I guess.
Yeah, it did help back in the day when I screened tenants on my own. But yeah, after 21 years, my passion, things started to go well. And how did real estate all start, I guess? If you want to transition to that,
let's do
that
it.
Cool?
Yeah. Was there like a day? There's always like a day.
Yeah, there was definitely a day, a time period, and it all started because my mortgage on my principal residence was coming up for renewal, and I was put in touch with this mortgage broker, residential mortgage broker. So I sit down in front of this guy and he's like, okay, obviously we got to renew your mortgage. I never worked with a mortgage broker before. Just worked going to TD Bank, branch level, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So I learned something from it. And obviously I'm like, okay, well, let's give this guy a shot. So we go, my wife and I sit down in front of this guy and he lays out some options for us. And then he says, by the way, obviously, where do you live now? And we talked about our primary res. And he's like, oh, how long you been there? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, you must have a lot of equity in your home. What are you doing with that? Back then, this is 12, 13 years ago. I'm like, what's equity?
It goes to show you they don't teach you shit in school. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When you think about it, like
100%.
They don't. Yeah, you didn't hear about. When was the first time you heard about equity?
No, it's self-taught. You learn on your own, right?
Yeah, like HELOC, home equity line of credit. Like I knew it because I worked at TD Bank, but also in the IT department. But I mean, I didn't. It was just always pay your mortgage down,
right?
Not leverage.
Mm-hmm. And that's how I was raised by my parents, being old school, Italian. You save every penny. You don't spend, and you put every penny you can on that mortgage and pay it off as fast as you can.
Right.
That's all, my dad ever told me. Thank God I never listened.
Yeah.
But
and then you hear the quote from Robert Kiyosaki, savers are losers. And you're like, hell, this guy talking about?
Yeah.
It really starts to mess with your mind.
So we're sitting in front of this guy and he says, what are you doing with that equity? What's equity? Well, and obviously explains it to me. And I said, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'm doing nothing with that equity. And this particular gentleman, mortgage broker, he had two hats. He was a mortgage broker, also a realtor, actually 3 hats, and an investor. So he says, hey, I got a couple investment properties. Have you ever thought of, getting into the game? I said, I hear these. And in typical, everybody says the same thing the first time they think about buying rental properties, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I heard these real bad horror stories. Tenants don't pay. You can't get them out. You lose your shirt. Tenants destroy the properties. I said the same thing to him. And he says, it's all bullshit. And you're a cop. Who's going to mess with you? Your tenants are going to know you're a cop. Nobody's going to mess with you.
Yeah, you like pulling that gun out.
You like pulling your gun out.
Who needs the LTB?
Yeah, your own LTB. So I'm like, oh, okay. I guess the guy's got a point. So anyways, I explored it. So we started out, he says, well, the first thing we got to do is get you a line of credit because we didn't have any money. We, not that we lived paycheck to paycheck, my wife and I, but we were starting out. We just got married, I got hired on the police department. She worked for TSN back then. And so we didn't have money, so we didn't have savings, but we had the equity in our home. So we started with a HELOC. I want to say back then it was about a $200K HELOC. Mm-hmm. We leveraged on the house. And, I thought, okay. The second thing that pushed me was when I finally put in my 30 years on the job, what kind of lifestyle am I going to live when I retire, right? Because I'm going to be on a pension. Mm-hmm. and obviously a reduced income, same as my wife. So, what are we going to be able to do in life with this reduced income? Blah, 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 blah. So I thought, okay, well, and then I started reading some stuff and listening to this mortgage guy, and we started talking about cash flow and, how cash flow could subsidize that gap for when I retire in my income. All right. So I'm like, okay. And I think with my police background, taking chances and being in the fire and, whatever word I'm looking for, gave me that courage which a lot of people sometimes just never get and do and take action. Right. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do it. I'm going to leverage everything we got in the house and let's do it. So that's how we started.
Right. And now, did you start with single family? Did you get right into the multifamily?
Duplex. Okay, our very first one was a duplex. And, back then, novice frame of mind, I got to buy something really close to where I live so I can drive by 5 times a day and make sure everything's okay, right?
Yeah.
Like most novice people think that. I can't buy something far away. How am I going to know what the tenants are doing, if this or that?
And what were you focusing on? Were you focusing on a price point? Was it even a legal 2-unit at the time?
It was illegal. It was around the corner, York region, around the corner from my house.
Yeah.
It was a typical bungalow, 3-bedroom up, and 1 full bath upstairs, and then your basement apartment, 2-bedroom basement apartment below. I want to say back then we paid $305,000 for it.
I think I saw that video recently.
Yes,
on Instagram.
I posted that.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, I pay attention to what you're doing on social.
Yeah, that's it. So it's worth definitely north of 8.
Yeah.
Now we still have it. One of the best properties. Low maintenance, no issues. It's been a great property.
Right.
Great property.
Tenants have been there since?
Tenants have been there.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had turnover, but we've had very little, if any. I think in the 8-10 years we've had it, I maybe lost 2 months, 3 months rent, and just with the transition from one tenant to the next. But other than that, like it's been great. And very little money. I think over the years we did a bathroom downstairs, a bathroom upstairs, and some flooring and stuff. So maybe in 10 years, I put in 20, 30 grand in 10 years.
That's nothing. Okay, so you do that property, you get your taste. You're like, okay, you know what? I want to continue to keep doing this. You pick up a couple more properties.
So then we ventured to Hamilton.
Right.
Yeah, we hit the brick wall. So we picked up a couple more using the line of credit, the home equity line, and we hit the brick wall.
Third property?
That one, we had 4.
4, okay.
And then we hit the wall. Okay, you're tapped out, your debt service, you're leveraged. So then we had a decision to make. Things were going really well. Obviously, we then segued the next 3. Like I mentioned, we're in Hamilton. And then we hit the brick wall and it's like, okay, what are we going to do now? Are we going to stick with this? And it was going well, the cash flow was coming in, and all we did was buy turnkey.
Okay.
I wasn't buying distressed and incorporating the BRRRR and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, but times are different back then too,
Big
man.
time.
Like so different.
We're talking 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we hit the brick wall and it's like, I want to keep going. And my wife thought, whatever happened, I want 1 or 2 cash flow to subsidize the pension. Like we got 4 now and you still want, take it easy, right?
It becomes addictive.
It does. It really does.
I always tell people it's like tattoos. I don't know many people that just have 1 or 2 tattoos.
Right. Yeah. Right. They keep going. Yeah. So it does become addictive. So I thought, okay, well, either we're going to go maybe potentially be lender, or we're going to start to joint venture. So over the course of those first, let's call it 3 to 4 years, when we were starting to build this portfolio just ourselves, we then started to build, I guess, a bit of a reputation out there. Plus, I started to get featured on a couple podcasts. And people resonated with the story, right? You know, police officer, turn investor, starting to build this portfolio, blah, blah, blah. And I got a couple lucky breaks with some investors reaching out. Hey, Adrian, I heard you on this podcast. I heard you on that podcast. Love to connect with you, potentially do business. And so I'd meet these people for coffee and I'd basically tell them my portfolio. This is the cash flow I'm experiencing now, this and that. I do have now connections in the business in Hamilton. If you're interested in, you know, joint venturing and stuff like that, obviously I was going to be the sweat equity. They're going to bring the capital. And that's how it really took off. Just from there. So the decision was made, let's joint venture. And then in 2017, the floodgates opened. If you remember the market in 2017, it was crazy. Like you could have sneezed and I could have sneezed and sold a house.
Yeah, you're talking about after they introduced a foreign tax.
I think so. Yeah,
right.
But it just
and then so you're talking about after that happened,
it exploded.
The market. Yeah. Well, I thought it slowed down. Did it?
Our business exploded.
Yeah, your business exploded because there was more properties available to pick up. The multiple offers cooled down. Right. So exploded for you on that side.
Yeah.
Summer 2017.
Right? Yeah.
And that was the year, ironically, I retired from the police department.
Okay.
So God works in mysterious ways, because get this one. I get hired on the police department and you can't pick your badge number. You get hired and they just give you your badge and whatever. You're next in line. You know, if you were at, 200, now you're 201. Your badge number is 201 and you don't get to pick it.
Yeah.
You just get it. So when I got hired with the police department, my badge number was 2017.
Oh.
I retired because of real estate. I retired from the police department after 21 years in 2017.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Who would have thunk, right?
Yeah.
So I left.
So when you retired in 2017, what allowed you to do that? We know real estate, but was there a certain amount of cash flow that you were looking to get? Did it supplement your income or was it half your income? Because that's always the challenging part, I think, for a lot of people that want to get into real estate investing and do it full time. How do you know when is the right time?
Yeah, and I probably, that's a good question. I probably could have left a couple of years sooner. But essentially, when I left in 2017, I was producing, give or take, about $80,000 a year in positive cash flow, which was less than I was making with the police department. I think back then I was making about 120 with the police. But I was burning the candle at both ends. So I'm a full-time police officer. I got a little daughter at home. My wife works full-time. I'm running back and forth from shift work to Hamilton, days off, back and forth, Hamilton, police, court, overtime, sleepless nights with night shift. I was really burning the candle at both ends. And it got to a point, even my wife said, why don't we don't need the money. And if you could probably make a lot more and do better if all you did was focus 100% of your effort in real estate investing and become a full-time real estate investor. And that's exactly what I did. So it was bittersweet, but it was also pretty emotional for me because, again, all I ever wanted to do was be a cop. That's it. And when the day finally came that I had to hand in I made the decision. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. And I handed my letter of resignation in. I was pretty emotional because it was a dream that I always had. And I'm leaving my dream that I never thought I would. I thought I'd put in my 35 years. I'd never want to stop policing. So it was pretty emotional when I handed in my letter of resignation. And but I knew there were greener pastures, and I was after, and what a lot of investors are after. I was after freedom. Right. Obviously, that financial piece, but more so the time freedom, the
Right.
geographical freedom. And I think you and I talked about that too on the podcast when I interviewed you on mine.
Yep.
I really wanted that more than anything else. And I knew as long as I stayed with the police, I'd never have it. I'd never have that freedom because I was governed by the clock.
Right. And so you were putting people in handcuffs, but then your job also had you in handcuffs.
Bingo.
There you go.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was handcuffed with respect to freedom. I had to be on shift at a certain time, roll call, days off, court. You know, I was handcuffed big time.
Yeah.
And I knew I would never live the lifestyle that I wanted to as long as I stayed there. And it gave me, the police department gave me tremendous experience how to work with people, how to deal with people, how to gain people's trust. And just the gift of the gab too, and making people feel comfortable because I did that every day.
Right. And then now you're also working with people that you enjoy working with. Right?
Exactly. As opposed to working with, let's call it a spade, I'm going to sugarcoat it, the scum of society, really.
To say it, hey man, it's real talk.
The
Go
lower,
ahead.
the scum of society that, the drug users, the molesters, every, pardon my French, but every piece of shit you can imagine I dealt with over those years.
And you know the thing I always thought of too, whenever I saw cops, like, hey, look, man, I appreciate the work that they do. I don't think they get enough appreciation, and it was always like, man, all it takes is for one lucky punk to get to jump on you, right?
Yeah.
And you're done.
Yeah.
That's all it takes,
Yeah.
right? And this guy is just either maybe trying to put some food in his belly or just, however life turned out for him, he doesn't give a shit about you. He's just
Nothing.
worried about that next dollar.
That's it. That's
Right.
it. And you just got a guy who's just trying to do a job. And I was that guy. But so the pastures were greener, and I knew they were greener. And although it was emotional to leave, it was the right time. I'd lost my passion. And my mindset was now, I'd be at work, working in undercover capacity, thinking about checking realtor.ca, trying to see, I gotta go see that. I gotta call my agent so I can go see that. Meanwhile, I'm not focused at what I'm working on, which could be dangerous, obviously. So it was like, it's time. It's time.
That's a good point.
It's time to go. My head isn't in it. I could wind up getting hurt or getting somebody hurt. It's time to go.
Yeah,
So
your partner's like, Adrian, didn't you see that guy just steal that old granny's purse?
Yeah. And I'm just
You're looking at the next deal.
I'm looking at the next deal, running the numbers on my phone.
Yeah.
So it was time, and I left on a high. I had a great career. I had got promoted to sergeant. So it was time, and it was great.
Yeah.
What was important in this story here is you hit that brick wall while you were still employed. We see too many investors, they get pumped up and they want to buy a property and leave their job tomorrow.
Right.
It's like, whoa. Let's utilize that. Let's utilize that income you're getting, that full-time job letter there. Get the properties, then plan it out. So it sort of worked out really well for you that you hit that brick wall. Now it's time to move on. You have that traction with joint ventures and you can grow that way.
You know how hard we all can appreciate being self-employed, what it's like getting mortgages when you're self-employed.
Oh, totally different
Right?
sandbox.
As opposed
right?
to, we had the token jobs. My wife's still with the police, 911. So she has her, salaried, steady income. Banks love that. I was a police officer. So combined, we, including our principal res, we had 5 residential mortgages. So we had the 4 rentals before we started a joint venture, plus our principal res. And that's when we tapped.
So what was the largest investment property that you purchased before you left? And then let's talk about what you're doing now, because you've scaled.
Yeah.
Like, we've spent a lot of time on getting out of your full-time job. But I mean, what you've done now from 2017 to 2023 in 6 years is incredible.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
So we scaled quite aggressively again, and I'm grateful to all our joint venture partners because of joint venture partnerships. It would have never been possible. But long story short, when I retired from police, we had strictly our four properties, right? And then from there, obviously the joint ventures took off. So that was 2017. And like you said, in 2023 now, we own 83 properties, multifamily properties, which is about 415 doors.
That's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
And if you would have asked me, and here's the power of, if you can dream it, you can do it. I didn't even dream it, let alone think I could do it. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, would you own 415 units? I'd say you're dreaming. Not in a million years. You know Mark Loeffler?
Yep.
So Mark Loeffler puts on, this is like 11 years ago. I'm sitting at a seminar Mark Loeffler puts on, and two of his guest speakers are at the front of the seminar 11 years ago. And they're talking about how they joint venture and if you want to joint venture with them. And I was new in the game, so I buy tickets to the seminar, and I knew Mark. And I'm listening to his guest speakers, and they say, so to date, we own X amount of properties, which is about 100 doors. And I'm sitting at the back, and I'm looking at these guys, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, these guys are like my heroes. Can you imagine owning 100 doors? Wow. I never think the day's going to come where I'm going to own 100 doors.
Right.
And now I own 415. So point in check, never sell yourself short, because I was a guy at the back of the classroom looking at the guy at the front saying, I got 100 doors. And I'm thinking at the back, that'll never be me. Mm-hmm. That'll never be me.
So walk us through that. How do you get to that many doors? I know it's joint ventures, but what do you start to focus on? If somebody's listening, what do they need to do? Is it building a database? Is it going out and talking to your friends and your family? Like what were, would you say, one or two of the main things that you did to get to where you've gotten to?
I think results. I think, previous to results, I got my breaks. Like me personally, I got my breaks from podcasts. Being guests on certain podcasts, and people resonated with that story. And then when they'd call, I'd had a track record. I was able to say, when they'd say, okay, can you give us some examples of what you've done, your level of experience? Okay, well, I have these 5, multifamilies in Hamilton. Here are my numbers. Here's my cash flow. This is what we do. Oh, okay, well, those look really impressive, this and that. I think we'd like to do business with you, Adrian. Awesome. Okay. And then obviously now we're on joint venture number 9. And then we'd get another call. And again, it was very, very fluid at that time in 2017. I was getting calls. I was turning away people to joint venture. So it's a tough bridge to gap. If you're just starting out, what are you going to say to someone to bring you 2, 3, 400,000? What's your track record? What's your level of experience? How many times have you done this? So if you're just a brand new novice, yes, I would definitely leverage family and friends, because you already have that open door, that level of trust, as opposed to complete cold lead.
Right.
Right.
Now, to dig deeper into it, were you putting any money into it, or were they putting everything in? And then if there was any renovations, you would then do 50-50?
So when I first started, I would agree for their level, because everybody always says, you have no skin in the game, right? If you're not putting any capital. Our model is different, but when I started, I would agree to put in 10% of all capital required for the project. And that was 10 years ago. And then as we began to develop a reputation, we began to develop some incredible returns on investment on some of our BRRRR projects. I then scaled it back and said, okay, I now have the reputation. I now have the track record. I now have the proof in the pudding. And we stopped putting in capital. And the investor would bring all the capital, right from the down payment, carrying costs, closing costs, renovations, everything. And we would carry out and execute everything from A to Z. scaling it further because things really skyrocketed there, like I mentioned. I started an in-house construction company because all we do is the BRRRR on these distressed properties. So I thought, why am I outsourcing all this? Why am I doing that? 1, 2, I got burnt probably 2 to 4 times when I started the construction, working with different contractors before I started my own company. Everybody's got a bad story about a general contractor.
Oh, yeah.
You just got to ask them, right?
Oh, yeah.
We could have an 8-hour podcast on that.
Just that alone.
Yeah.
He took my money. He started, he didn't finish. He kept asking me for more money, and then I'd give him a little bit, and then he disappeared for 3 weeks. There was nobody ever working there. On and on. He told me the project would be done in 6 months. It ended up taking 18 months. Everybody's got a bad story. So I was one of those guys. I had the bad stories too. 2 to 4 times I got burnt. And I said, you know what? No more. Like the amount of volume we're doing. Why am I going outsourcing to these idiots? And there were some good ones, but like I said, you get stung 2 to 4 times, it hurts. Because every time I got stung,
Right.
You're talking 30, 40,000.
So you hired the general contractor, and the general contractor would then have his own team that he would bring into your...
Right. We'd write up the contract, and then, thank God things worked out, but it was those 2 to 4 examples that I got stung. And, we lost money, obviously, that I said, I'm not doing it anymore. So I decided, why don't I form an in-house construction company with our own guys on payroll? Mm-hmm. And when we start to get really busy, if we need to bring in additional help, we will via subcontractors, so on and so forth. Excuse me. And it really eliminated a lot of that drama in the construction world. And it gave me peace of mind knowing, okay, these are my people. I'm not going on, hey, why aren't you there today? Hey, that I can pick up the phone and say, I need you 5 guys to crush that job today because we're 2 weeks behind.
Yeah. Or you're fired.
So
Yeah, they're on payroll, right?
On payroll.
They're not there chasing jobs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it also gave peace of mind working with our joint venture partners, because now there's no third party I can blame.
Right. The buck stops with you.
Mm-hmm. It's me. And they have first communication with Adrian when they have questions as far as, okay, how are we looking at there? How's this looking or that looking? It's me, and I'm on the hot seat, and it's our people giving them peace of mind as well. I can't say, hey, I went on Kijiji because we were behind and I hired Luigi and he hasn't showed up in 3 weeks.
Right.
There's none of that.
So what does that whole business look like then? So you've got your real estate portfolio, you're raising capital, you've got the construction company underneath you. What else do you have?
Property management.
And so you also brought property management in-house as well too.
Correct.
And the property management and the construction piece, Quentin, we know this, that those are probably the two toughest piece of the real estate investing business out there.
Yeah. And
Unless there's
agree.
a third one.
I think you hit the nail on the head. The PM stuff, the property management stuff for us, we strictly provide those services just for our properties, our joint venture partners. So we don't really outsource. Same with construction. If somebody were to call up and say, hey, Adrian, I know you have that company now. Can you finish my basement in my duplex? No. We strictly, we're a small boutique company that just specializes and works with our properties, our joint venture properties. Same as property management. I'm not interested, and we don't need the business. We're busy enough ourselves.
Right.
You're to call me and say, can you, I got a duplex in Hamilton. Can you do it for me and provide property management services? Our little company just doesn't want to handle it. We could handle it. We got the infrastructure to handle it, but I'm not interested. I just want to keep it small and tight. So we provide exceptional service to our properties.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's a great business model.
It's clarity. Right. And not getting shiny objects. And when you got that laser focused clarity.
It's just us.
Yep.
That's it.
No.
I like it. And so then you got a handyman. He can go out. He can do this. He can do that.
So our in-house PM company, we have full-scale maintenance, 24/7, 365. We got 2 full-time guys on payroll, just respond to service calls. I mean, you got 415 units. There's always something going on.
Yeah.
We got in-house leasing, full-time leasing guys that just post the ads, show the units, screen the tenants, prepare the package that we send to the JV and say, okay, Quentin, great guy. Here's his application. The JV partner always has the last say. They get to say, nah, I don't like that too much, or yeah, let's proceed. More often than not, obviously, they always say, let's proceed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all in-house. And, you know, my mindset when we started to scale was I wanted to build something like Costco, where an investor comes through the door, investor myself. I'm obviously a licensed realtor myself, so I can facilitate the deal. On top of that, in-house construction, in-house property management. You don't have to go to 7 grocery stores, and we're not outsourcing anything other than we have our preferred like real estate lawyer we work with, or a preferred mortgage brokers we send our business to. But like, you know, the physical things that we need to take care of, it's all in-house.
Okay, so you start off with 2 units, then you scale probably to 3-4 units. You're not doing that today. You're going bigger, are you not? Like what size are you doing right now? And what's more difficult? The bigger ones or the smaller ones? And I think I know the answer.
Yeah, good question. So we are still doing the smaller stuff. We've divided the company. So we have the residential. So we'll still do the 3s and the 4 unit conversions, if you will.
Right. Nothing smaller than that right now.
Nothing smaller than that.
Yeah.
And so we still have that. But I'm focused myself. I'm focused the new acquisitions, getting into the bigger stuff, the apartment building space, you know, ranging from, 10 units. Our biggest acquisition, we bought about just over a year ago now, 47 unit purpose built on the Hamilton Mountain.
Wow.
And we have everything in between. So 10s, 12s, we got a 15 unit, so on and so forth. So yeah, we are transitioning, although we still have, because we do get the calls from the JV guys that, okay, they're leveraging a HELOC. They have 250, for example, and that's all they have. And they want to take part in a duplex or a triplex. So we're, that's been our bread and butter historically. So we're like experts in that field. So we're not going to turn that away. We'll still do it. But we're trying to work more and more at the same time as well on our commercial division, the apartment building space. Which one's easier? The apartment buildings. And I say that because the only lag of time with apartment buildings is the legacy tenants, right? These buildings, these 20 unit buildings, they're coming fully tenanted. Rocco owned it for 40 years. He never raised the rents.
Right.
They're all in there. They've been lifers in there. So you're going to have to do the cash for keys and be an expert in negotiations, make them feel comfortable that you're going to help them get something else that they can afford, and they can use the cash for keys that you're going to pay them to subsidize. Obviously, they're going to be paying more in rents.
Yeah.
That's the lag. But as far as construction goes, once the tenant vacates that apartment building unit, we're in and out in 30 days. Floors, trim, baths, kitchen, paint, maybe some lighting, and we're gone. Right. 30 days in and out.
And you probably have a system of here's a paint color, here's a countertops, here's a lighting, here's a flooring.
Yeah.
Bang it out, done.
Exactly.
Right.
Cookie cutter system, color scheme. Yeah. Nothing really varies from that.
Yeah. You probably got 4 gallons of the same color paint in your trunk.
I wouldn't say the car I got here, but yeah, I probably got 10 gallons sitting in my basement at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same color of paint, the same floors, the same backsplash, the same kitchen. Got it down to an art where, like I said, once that tenant vacates and that unit's vacant, we're in and out in 30 days on to the next unit.
Yeah.
The residential stuff, typically, and you guys have done this too, but we're dealing with 80, 100-year-old homes. A lot of them are all plaster and lath, filled with knob and tube. And obviously back then when these houses were built, there are all these small rooms, right? And there's no open concepts, which doesn't really fly today with the young professionals, which is most of our tenant profile. So you're opening up walls, you're doing structural, you have to get permits, which I don't know what Oshawa's like, but Hamilton is, you might as well be working backwards. You're easy 4 to 6 months sometimes before you get permits, which is obviously time and money because there's delays. So there's a lot more hands-on work that goes into that triplex, and as opposed to the apartment building in and out in 30 days, where it's really just cosmetic.
How difficult is the cash for keys? And I know that's obviously a touchy subject, right? Because these are families that are living in these properties. But, sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, yeah, it's just cash for keys, no problem. You just give them a bunch of money and they're gone. I don't think it's as easy as that.
No, that's bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I got a lot of experience in that. But it really ranges on the tenants, how long they've been there, what they're paying now. We always judge it. Obviously, you're going to start low and work your way up. That's the power of negotiation. But I look at it, what's the lift on that unit if I get these people out on the commercial platform? Because everything comes down to the NOI when you're dealing with commercial lenders, right?
Yep.
What's the NOI? What's the cap rate? And let's do the math. It's nothing to do with comparables, like the residential platform. So if that person's paying, I'm just going to throw basic numbers. If that person's paying $600 for a 2-bedroom, and after I renovate it and the market rent after we renovate it, I can inflate that to $1,800, right? That $1,200 lift, give or take, is worth about $200,000 value to the building. So people say, what's the most you paid these people to leave? We've gone up as far as $20,000, $25,000. But if you do the math, I'm at a $200,000 lift, less 20, I'm still up $180.
Right. This is where it comes down to now knowing your numbers and knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So as much as it stings to write that check, at the end of the day, the lift on that building for that one unit by turning that over is huge. Cost of doing business.
Right. Are you doing a lot of VTBs as well too? Are you doing a lot of creative financing?
Yeah. In the apartment building space, more often than not. Let's face it, Rocco owned the building for 50 years. He's ready to cash out. His kids don't want it. They don't want any part of it. And the building is pretty much paid for more often than not. So the VTB obviously is a win-win. He can defer his capital gains and we get, obviously that financing, which is pretty easy to negotiate. So yeah, we do try to do that. Some owners just won't have it. Some are like, yeah, okay, sure, no problem, to make the deal work, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely look at VTBs for sure.
Yeah. You got any question there, Q?
No, I'm just, it's interesting to hear the journey. So what was that one spark where you said, I'm coming out of the residential? What was that spark that got you into the commercial? What was the first deal that said, okay, this is the direction we're going to go now?
Yeah, really good question. It was about a year and a half or two ago. I was thinking, how am I going to get some new leads coming in for some off-market stuff? So I thought, I've worked with a couple appraisers on the commercial space. So I call up one of these commercial appraisers and I said, hey, do you know anybody, that is looking to move or sell one of their buildings? You appraise these apartment buildings all the time. You must run into these owners. And he said, actually, I do. I do. I just appraise this building. This older gentleman is looking to get rid of it. Anyways, long story short, get Buddy's name and number. I give this guy a call, and I ended up negotiating this deal. We ended up buying the building for $500,000 less than what it was appraised at.
Really?
Don't ask me how I did it, but the guy fell in love with me.
Right.
And we buy it for $500,000 less. And the experience that I had with the renovations in there, being in and out in 30 days with these unit turnovers, it was like a breath of fresh air. And it was like, okay, this is like super, super easy. I don't have to deal with permits. I don't have to deal with the city. I don't have to deal with all this other stuff. Again, it's still a good investment, but this is just a little bit easier on the construction side and everything to do with that.
Yeah, you're not converting. You're just renovating.
Cosmetics.
Right, you're not asking for permits and let's change this. You know, can we get a minor variance and can we do this and can we get the higher and best use? It's just like, here's the numbers.
Yeah,
here are the units. Right.
Yeah,
let's clean this stuff up.
It's just a lot more streamlined.
Yeah,
and I'm like, this is a lot easier. And the exit, the exit's going to take a little bit longer because obviously, turning over 15, 20 units as opposed to a triplex or a duplex, it's just going to take longer. But the exit is just as lucrative, if not more. And now you own this 20-unit apartment building with, very little money left in the deal on the exit after your BRRRR and your refi. And now you got a $3.5 million, $4 million asset with $100,000 in the deal.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then you just let it ride.
How complex is it to put it together when you're talking about like the corporations? And are you creating new corporations for each new building that you're acquiring?
Yeah. Very easy. Very easy. Obviously, their new corps don't have any substance to them. So we're guaranteeing the loan, but the title's secured in the corp. I have a really good lawyer that sets all the corps up. I want to say, give or take, it's about $1,000, $1,200 to set up that new corp, the entity for the title. That's probably one of the easiest parts. It's really easy.
Right.
We have now obviously our preferred commercial agents for insurance for these bigger buildings that they give us preferred rates because we give them all of our business. So yeah, really kind of made it a very tight-knit, full circle operation, which peace of mind for me, when you got 415 units on the go, there's a lot going on daily.
Yeah.
And the more you can streamline it, and when it's working and it's working smoothly, for the most part, it does every day. Sometimes people say, how do you do it? You're running 3 companies. Capital investment company, construction, property management, dealing with JVs. I mean, the JVs call me, the JVs email me. They want to speak to me. I can leverage some of our staff, but they want to hear from me and their updates and whatnot. And if they have a concern or question, they're calling me. So it's, Adrian, how do you do it? We have the processes in place, so it's pretty streamlined. It doesn't take up 12 hours a day, if you will. There's some days that are pretty stressful, but for the most part, it's pretty streamlined. And I'm just kind of overseeing everything. We probably have, now if you look at all of our staff combined in the office, on any given day, there's probably 10 people on payroll in that office running the business.
Yeah. I mean, look, you got bookkeepers, there's just a lot of moving pieces and you got to make sure it's streamlined. Yeah. And I bet you probably have weekly meetings, daily meetings, just to kind of keep things in check.
You're absolutely right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Give me an update on this. Okay. What's happening there? So you're really you're overseeing all these moving pieces. And it's good for people to understand that if they're going to move into this space, and to grow into this space. I mean, geez, we talked about you just hiring your first admin.
Yeah.
To now you're like, you're running a corporation, you're running a business.
Big time.
Yeah. And you now have systems. You need proper systems in place.
To scale that. And to think of, back to, I guess, simplicity, or whatever word I'm looking for. 12 years ago, I was driving a cruiser, working a night shift, making 120 grand a year. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, incredible career that I had. But I guess my point is this. I got no business education. I never went to university. I never ran a business prior to starting all of this. And I was self-taught for the most part. So my point is this. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm living proof that if you take action and you believe in yourself, and that saying, you fail forward, and don't stay in your comfort zone, because that'll kill you. Yeah. How many videos have you seen celebrities talk about get out of your comfort zone? Get out of your comfort zone. You can't grow in your comfort zone. I'm living proof. And it works.
Yeah,
it does.
And all you need to do is you just got to push a little bit, and then you can come back into that comfort zone. But once you've pushed, you're like, okay, I've been here before, and you can go a little bit more and then come back into that comfort zone. But every time you push out, you're just learning something new. And look, you're going to trip up, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail. But that's what it's all about. And I don't even call it failing. It's just if you didn't succeed, you learned. Those are it. You succeed or you learn.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And I think that's the way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
How did you pivot from last year, especially with where interest rates went? That was a fast move. And when you're running a business like that you're running, you got to be aware, you got to be sharp, and you got to be able to react. Because I don't think anybody ever had to react that fast, right? With everything that happened last year. That was quick.
Yeah.
And that's hurt a lot of investors who are not experienced and potentially got caught in that.
Yeah. So we obviously, our cash flow on the residential side just got crushed with all these interest rate hikes, obviously. And some of our properties, thank God not all, but probably a half a dozen of them, we're in the red. Like, no bullshit. We're in the red. Not a ton of money, like maybe $1,000 a month. That obviously we're splitting with our JV partners, being in the red. A lot of those, I've had to carry those conversations with a lot of those JV partners because, they're blowing up my phone. Oh my God, it's doom and gloom. We should sell. Let's just get out of this. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't this. I didn't that.
Right.
And I've kind of tried to put the jets on and say, okay, listen, first of all, let's circle back. Here's a fourplex that we've been in the game a year and a half. We refinanced that fourplex a year ago. We got all your money out plus 50,000. Okay. What did you do with that 50,000 surplus that we got out? Did you already spend it on something else? Because that cushion obviously is nice to have for days like today, right? So let's call a spade a spade. You got all your money back. You got no money in this deal. Plus you got 50 grand. If we can hold on, now's not the time to sell because the property is probably worth less than what it got appraised for a year ago. So why are we going to sell now and take a hit? If we can hold on, let's hold on. Because again, when we first started this, remember we had that talk, me and you, Mr. Smith? Remember we had that talk and I said, this is all about long-term wealth. Ride the wave. Real estate goes up, real estate comes down. Let's ride this wave because if we can ride this wave and come out of it, we're going to be sitting really, really nice. And then if you really still want to sell, let's sell when the market turns back to where we need it to be. Because if you're going to sell today, and let's say you were going to sell today, and you potentially are going to take a 10 to 15% hit on what you could have sold for a year ago or whatever, or down the road. If you're talking about $1 million property, right? that's $100,000. Even if we're in the red, $500 a month, 500 times 12, that's $6,000. So let's weigh this out. Can we carry this and be in the red, even $10,000? I'd rather be in the red $10,000 and come out at the end of this. And then if you really want to sell, so we're not taking $100,000 to $120,000 bath because of, let's call a spade. The cost of real estate is down right now. We are coming back up. We are seeing more activity. We're seeing prices starting to climb a little bit, but we are down. Mm-hmm. We're still down. So let's absorb that $6,000 potential hit and let's ride the wave.
Right. So now you are dealing with people's emotions. That's what 2022, 2023 has been about for you, right? You need a psychiatrist room.
Yeah. You're having a lot of those conversations.
Yeah. And we're combating the media every day. Real estate this, down, negative
Doom and
news.
gloom,
So this
gloom.
is, and like you said, we're in this for the long haul, right? So people get emotional when the initial conversation, they said, oh, Adrian, at least 5 years. I understand. Yep. Minimum 5 years that I got to be in this. And then something happens in the news and the emotions get stirred up and they're, oh, it's a year and a half. Get me out. Like, settle down.
Relax.
Slow and steady. Right?
Yeah, it's been definitely a roller coaster ride for a lot of investors, and especially too with a lot of them jumping in. I mean, look, there's obviously been a lot of investors that have been in the game for a long time, but I mean, the ones that have jumped in like into 2020, 21, 22, and thought the market could only do, not even this. Mm-hmm. They thought that's how it was always going to be, and just over leveraged heavily that have put themselves in some pretty serious
Bad
situations.
spots.
Yeah. You know, so this is, you know what, look, though, I think it's a good lesson. And I think the ones that can make it through this or come back will do very well, because they'll remember this going into the future and purchasing other properties, that this can potentially happen.
Absolutely.
Right.
Live and learn. But if you can ride the wave, like I'm telling a lot of our JV partners who have concerns, and obviously the cash flow has been, drastically cut. Mm-hmm. Let's ride the wave. Yeah. We're going to come out of this. And you know what they say, once it starts to come back, it spikes.
Yeah.
The market, that is. It spikes. Historically, when the market turns, it doesn't, when it starts to get momentum, it spikes.
Right.
So let's ride the wave.
Yeah. And look, and we're seeing it too, Quentin, with our clients, with the investors that we work with for so many years. They're just waiting. They're all just kind of like in this pause mode. Mm-hmm. This is the slowest I've ever seen my business, Yeah. But they're there. They're just waiting, because there's just been a lot of news that's out there that's really, it's making them a little confused, and they're also a little bit nervous, and they want to just kind of see where things go, right? And then when it starts to move back up again, then you're going to get those fear of missing out. Then it's
it's too late.
Yeah,
I know.
How do you know we hit the bottom? Well, it's already starting to go up. That's when you know, right?
It's too late, man.
You don't know.
Exactly. And I say this too, like, just go out there and run your numbers. But just because you see a certain price doesn't mean that's what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. There are people out there that are pricing high, but they're willing to take a lot lower because they need to get out. There's people that they want to get out and they need to get out.
Yeah, you don't know unless you throw your name in the hat, right?
Yeah.
It's a numbers game. It's not emotion. So throw your number out. Doesn't stick, move on.
Yeah. We got a listing up right now, I want to say for $850. We got a super low ball. Somebody threw us an offer at the beginning of the week for $700.
Yeah.
With 19 conditions. Obviously we didn't sign back.
Yeah.
But there's proof in the pudding. He's like, okay, I'll sure, let's throw something in. I'll try it out. And we got $150,000 less than asking price.
Yeah. It might be one of my investors.
Who knows, right? You never know. It didn't go anywhere.
Taught them well.
But you don't know unless you try.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Because you don't know who's on the other side and how desperate they are to get out of the market, right? What's the future look like for you? What are you focusing on? Where do you see yourself in the next few years?
Future for me, I'm thinking I got about another solid I'm going to go hard for another 3 years.
Okay.
Is my goal. That'll bring me to over 50. And I've been going hard for the last 13. And prior to that,
when you say over 50, what are you talking about? You're like 39, brother.
I'm 49.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I'm 49. So that'll put me about 53. And honestly, I worked my ass off. These last 12 years. And when you're self-employed entrepreneur, you can work 14 hours a day. Mm-hmm. You just got to open up your laptop and you can just respond to emails and do whatever you do. And so I think another 3 to 4 is in the cards. And then ultimately I want to pass the torch to my daughter. So my daughter's working with us now. She's 22. Super, super smart girl. Learning the business, getting her real estate license. And I like it because she's learning from the ground up. Nice. Just like I did. I got my hands dirty dealing with tenants, the whole 9 yards. And that's exactly what she's doing now. She's only 22. So there's, super young, but getting into the game and learning everything to do with property management, how to run numbers, how to look at different, deals. We're starting her out on the residential stuff first before obviously the apartment building stuff's a different animal, but yeah. And then I'll never probably fully retire. Maybe she'll run things for me being boots on the ground and I can be a snowbird, and go down south. Love the Caribbean. Yeah. Love the Caribbean. Maybe go down south 3-4 months of the year, the coldest months here in Canada, and just work off my laptop. Yeah. And let her be the boots on the ground here, so to speak, is what my long, 3 to 4 year vision is. Within this next 3 to 4 years, I want to scale. I think the next step for our company, and I think we've reached that plateau, is to start going GPLP structure, raising funds, raising capital, more of the bigger stuff like that. So I'm actually involved with talks with lawyers right now to start setting that up, where we have that, limited partnership, general partners, and I think we can scale a lot bigger with that model and raising capital that way. Don't get me wrong, joint ventures are great. But I don't think we can scale to where I want to scale. I want to get to 1,000 units, essentially, by the time I head south to the Caribbean. And I think one way to do that more aggressively is to start a fund, right? Like that. So that's in the infancy stages. I want to get that off the ground this year for sure, and then build from there.
Exciting stuff, man. Yeah. It's amazing. What an incredible story. Yeah, really, I really enjoyed it, and thanks for coming in and sharing your journey and what you've learned over the years. I think if anybody's listening, I think they'll definitely pick a few things up. What would you say is the most important thing that you've learned over the years? Would it be raising capital? Is that one of the most important things, or having the conversation? What do you think it is?
On a personal level, I would say 2 things. On a personal level, don't be afraid to fail. Yeah. And take action. And I look back, and so many people say that, but it's so passionately true. I don't care how many times you hear that on different podcasts or different motivational videos, to take action and do it. Look at me. If I didn't take action and do it and start with a $200K line of credit 12 years ago, I'd still be working night shifts, half asleep half of the time, miserable the other half of the time because no sleep. Nobody cares about you. At the end of the day, the criminals don't give a shit about you, right? And it always seems like you're trying to chase sleep, your days off so you can forget about it, and then you're back in it. So had I not taken action, and I'm so passionate about that, I'd still be there. And I'd still, be driving my Pontiac, whatever Pontiac I had back then. But you know what I mean? So I'm so sincere about that, guys. Like, take action and don't be afraid to fail. Lastly, the raising capital, definitely accelerated me in my portfolio, because without it, let's face it, how do you get to 415 units without other people's money and having the trust that they put in you? They're coming to the table with 3, 4, 500,000. People have come to the table with $3 million investing with us. There's got to be that trust. They got to know, first of all, you got the stats behind you, but they got to trust you too. Yeah. You got to have all the stats in the world, but if they look at you and they're like, this guy looks like a snake, or he just gives me the,
Yeah. And also too, I would say, just to add that, after you get a couple properties under your belt, don't be scared to go jump on somebody's podcast.
Yeah.
Share your story. Look, I guarantee the first podcast you did probably wasn't that good. I know mine wasn't. I've shared this story. I was on Sandy and Rob's podcast. Mm-hmm. They gave me all the questions. I had all the questions, and I wrote out all the answers. And I swear to God,
you read it verbatim?
I read them. And I think one of the questions, they were off a little bit. I lost my foot. Now, thank God it wasn't like in a studio. It was just like,
it was just over mics.
Oh my God. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
But you get better at it. Look, we sat down here. What do? We just shit for like what, an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the institutional training in you, the education system, Gary. Oh, learn this knowledge, study for the test. And that's what you did verbatim, right?
Yeah.
And you learn as you're in this, you grow, you adapt, and you learn what you need to know. And
you become better at it too, right? And you tell your story. And that's all people want to hear is your story. And if they can resonate with your story, they'll call you.
Yeah.
They'll reach out to you. Even if it's just to say, hey, I heard you on Gary's podcast. Love your story. Congratulations. That's amazing, buddy. Best of luck. Continued success to you. If nothing else. And it just gives you that, pat on the back to say, hey, fuck, that guy just recognized me. And people do listen and watch.
Yeah, they do. And you don't know who is.
You don't know. That's the thing. Like on our social media, how many things do you post? How many this and that? Sometimes you think, is people even resonating with this stuff? Are they even watching it? What are they thinking? Because I haven't had one, DM in 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe my content's shit, but it's not. Like and then all of a sudden it blows up.
Exactly.
Hey, I've been following you for a long time. I've debated whether to message you or not, but I thought I'd reach out. Can we talk?
Yeah.
It's like, oh. Okay.
Yeah. And listen, and we talked about this just before we turned the mics on and the cameras on. I just started a YouTube channel for my podcast. Mm-hmm. I checked this morning, 8 subscribers.
Yeah.
Here's the key, guys. Just start. Mm-hmm. Right? People think, well, but you've been doing this for a long time. It doesn't. I didn't start the YouTube yet. Right? I was doing other things.
Yeah.
But just start. That's it.
Take the step.
Adrian, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to reach out to you or they want to do some joint ventures with you, learn more about what you're doing, because you're doing some incredible things, how do they do that?
Yeah, just send me an email, Adrian, ADRIAN, at investwithepc.com. Or we're all over social media. Executive Properties Capital is our company. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, my name. They're very easy to find. Send me a message and love to chat.
Awesome. Q, anything else you want to say, brother?
No, I think just reiterate, Adrian, action. That is, like you said, we hear it so much, but that's the key ingredient, right? We see too many people sit in rooms, don't do anything. The knowledge is no good if you don't take action.
That's it.
There's so many groups out there, and I'll leave you with this for people listening. There's so many professionals out there. There's so many Facebook groups. There's so many real estate coaches. There's no reason that you cannot feel comfortable if you surround yourself, whether you pay for a real estate coach, whether you joint venture, whether you talk to Gary, whether you talk to me, whether you talk to anybody. There's really no excuse in today's day and age that you cannot feel comfortable as a new investor to get in the game. Find that person, find that professional to help you.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
There's no excuse.
Listen, man, when we first started, there weren't many out there.
Exactly.
I had to drive all the way to Mississauga or Oakville, and and I'd be coming home at 1:00 in the morning, and because I was networking and had to go to work. It's a lot easier now. It wasn't like that on social media either.
Exactly.
Right?
So there's really no excuse.
There isn't. There's no excuse in today's day and age. There really isn't. Adrian, listen, brother, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man.
All right, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we'll do
Cheers.
it again.
Thanks for listening to today's show with Gary Hibbert. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with your host on Instagram at Gary Hibbert. Until next time, stay mindful and remember, you don't have to be great to start. Just start, and you'll be on the path to being great.